Hi, thanks for tuning in. This is the ASX and Sectors weekly chart analysis for the week ending 1st of December 2023. First chart is the S&P ASX 200 index. This is the XJO. Put some lines in quickly. Levels have been quite consistent lately. It always gives you confidence that the analysis will be well based. You can see that the market has some sort of shakeout at the bottom here, where price dipped below the previous lows here, but it wasn't supported. The market didn't break down. It recovered the next week, and then the market's been going through a period of absorption through here over the last month, and it looks primed to push higher in response. If trading conditions are at all favourable next week, I expect this market will make a challenge to this breakdown line in the background, and it's a pretty strong breakdown line by the looks, so it'll take a bit of effort to push through, but the market looks primed to issue a challenge to that line next week. Now, I expect there will be some supply drawn out from the left here, so the market will have to contend with that if it does attempt to push higher, but it's all set up and looks well placed to issue a challenge next week and push higher in response. Now, as you'll see, the other associated indexes in Australia are looking similar. This is the Mid Caps, and they also have a similar setup really in the background. You can see there's a shakeouty thing down the bottom here. Price attempted to break down. It recovered immediately. It pushed higher. I think this little tail at the top here was this market getting ahead of itself a little bit. There was the breakdown line here in the background, and this was an attempt to push higher which wasn't supported, and the market then fell back and has gone through a similar period of absorption and consolidation as the XJO has. Now, the market's a little bit further behind, but still well placed. It'll either push up to the highs of this range, this breakdown line here in the background, in response, or it will really accelerate higher and make up the lost ground compared to the parent index and challenge this line next week as well. It'll just depend whether trading conditions are favourable or not. I'm expecting they will be, but we'll just have to wait and see and confirm that. You'll know early next week, Monday and Tuesday, you'll get a pretty good indication. The Small Ordinaries. This chart is much more compressed than the previous two. All the levels are squished together to some extent. You can see the dip below the previous lows here, same as the larger two charts we just looked at. Price rejected moving lower and has moved into some awkward form of absorption here. It's trading adjacent to this congestion here to the left and has been absorbing supply. This chart also has this tail similar to the mid caps, where the market attempted to move higher, but it wasn't really supported. And you can see that here on the lower volume, below average volume, price attempted to go higher. That suggests that the market wasn't supporting higher prices at the time, and it fell back down and closed at this level. Next bar was an absorption bar, which drew out no selling pressure or very little. And this week, there's been a little test for supply just below the previous close, and then a period of absorption and consolidation pushing up. And it looks like it's overcome the expected resistance that was adjacent to this congestion here. And this market, if we're pushing high next week, we'll probably push up to this breakdown line here in the background. Now, similar to the other two markets, I would expect there'll be supply drawn out from the left here. So price may push up to this level and then find it difficult to push through immediately. But that remains to be seen at this point. I expect the market will attempt to push higher next week, especially if trading conditions are favourable. This is the financials, and The market's been fairly directionless right through this period here, trading sideways with no serious direction, no obvious push in either direction. You can see price has been consolidating here. Similar to the parent index, there was like a shakeout at the bottom here and a period of absorption in response over the last month. Price has just popped out the top this week, but I wouldn't really call that a breakout at all, at least not yet. If there is a push higher next week, then I expect the market will push up. The next level goes through there, and you can see that's been supported right through there. And I would expect the market will attempt to push up there if trading is favourable next week. I don't expect the market will challenge this level at 7,200. It may do, but if there's a strong push higher, it may do. But I expect the price will really just push up to this level, close somewhere in here just below the 7,200. And if trading conditions continue to be favourable for this month, then a challenge the following week. This is the S&P ASX 300 Metals and Mining Index. I use this rather than the materials because I'm trying to cover the miners rather than all the different stocks that are included in the materials sector. So I prefer to use this. And I've been saying for a while, it appeared that there's been some accumulation going on in this sector. And I think that's been probably the case. It remains to be seen, but it's likely. Now, this week trading had a very narrow spread on above average volume. Now, if that was all selling pressure, this market would have been overwhelmed and it would have pushed down in response. But it didn't do that. It kept a really narrow spread, which suggests that the market has comfortably absorbed any supply that's been drawn out at this level. And this appears to be accumulation in the background here. You can say the same thing with a lot of these bars. If this was all selling pressure, the market would have broken down, but it never did. It remained strong adjacent to this low here, even when it was under pressure. That suggests that buying was taking place. It wasn't buying up, it was letting the supply come to whoever was buying, but it does suggest that buying was taking place. And this bar this week definitely suggests that. And you'll see in response, if it's true, that the market will attempt to break out next week. I would expect that's ready to go. You may find an early test for supply next week, very early test for supply on Monday. It may only be intraday. And then if there's no supply being drawn out, then I would expect the market to make an attempt to push higher and into this next level above, into this level here. Now, there is this level making the highs of the range. On a really strong week, price could push up to this level and then go into consolidation and absorption mode just below the highs. But I'm expecting there's a good chance the market will at least challenge the 6,000 level on this chart and attempt to push into this next level above. The ASX gold sector has also had accumulation in the background and a couple of, this is a 2-bar reversal or shakeout here. This is a 3-bar one here. And in both times in response, there was an up bar and then further accumulation. And there was an up bar here and then a period of absorption through there. And this week price has pushed clearly above that high. You've got a level that goes through there. It's a bit of a rough level there. This was probably a bit of over-enthusiasm here. But the market's pushed up to that level this week. Now, you might find some testing for supply early in the week, like this. And then if trading conditions become favourable for the gold market, then price will probably attempt to push higher here as well. You've got the highs of the range coming through here, but I'm not expecting a huge amount of supply to be drawn out from this level. I expect what was trapped in here has probably sold out when price was trading down here. So I don't expect there'll be a great deal of supply up there. There may be a little. I'm not expecting a great deal. It remains to be seen. This is the energy sector, and this market has been looking a little vulnerable lately. You can see the breakdowns in the background. Now, 3 weeks ago, price pushed down and spread narrowed somewhat. The next bar was up. So there was a tentative attempt to support the market here. It wasn't particularly strong. This week, price came back on an increase in volume, but it didn't really break below the lows of that bar where the tentative attempt to support the market was taking place. And it closed back within the range of this bar. Now, I think this is all a tentative attempt to support the market. I don't think it's particularly strong. If overseas markets were particularly weak, this would all be dumped and price would break down pretty easily. I don't think there'll be any great attempt to hold on. But if overseas markets stand up, then I expect this market will attempt to consolidate and build some support at this level. I'm not expecting a really strong push higher or anything like that, but some sideways trading through here where the market can build some strength up, absorb any supply that's being drawn out, and prepare itself for a push higher, perhaps in the future. This is the healthcare sector, and this has had a pretty tough time of it more recently. Now, there was an attempt in here to support the market, which failed. This was a pretty strong attempt to support the market, and price failed here. This is the breakdown. This is the breakdown bar from this attempt to support the market, and then price continued lower. Now, there's been a secondary attempt to support the market right through here. Volumes have dropped off considerably, so selling pressure has dropped off. I expect those who really wanted to sell and get out of this sector have done so, and that's allowed this market to push up free of the selling pressure that's been previously drawn out as prices moved lower. And the market has pushed up to this breakdown line here, and it's spent the last 2 weeks in consolidation mode. You can see 2 weeks ago, price pulled back with a narrow spread and an increase in volume, and that suggests the market was absorbing supply that's been drawn out. This week saw a very small test for supply below the previous close, and then a buy the offer sort of bar here where there's been some more accumulation. Now, don't be surprised if you do see this market test for supply again, at least early in the week. Although if there's a bit of enthusiasm in the overall market to push higher, this market may attempt to do so as well. There's definitely been some support come into this market. There's been some buying, and it looks like the selling pressure has reduced considerably. So that allows this market some time to continue to absorb, or it may even attempt to push higher if the enthusiasm is high in the market next week. This is the industrial sector, and it broke down from this failed attempt to break out. It didn't really want to break down. It tried to hold on through here, but it did break down in the end, and you can see price moved lower. And then when the larger sectors and the parent index put in that big recovery bar, this market did as well. And since then, price has moved sideways effectively for the last 2 weeks in absorption mode. And it doesn't look like much supply was drawn out 2 weeks ago when price pulled back. There was a little test for supply this week and then a push higher. I think this market's probably well placed to push back up to this 6,600 level and There's a breakdown line through there. So I think it'll probably push up to that level there if the trading conditions are favourable next week. So that gives it a decent chance to push higher. I'm not expecting a great challenge to this, and I do expect there'll probably be some supply drawn out to the left here if the market did attempt to push higher. Just back to the parent index quickly. This is the XJO, and you can clearly see where the market's placed at the moment. For a while, the levels were looking very messy in the background here, and as a result, we really didn't get price doing anything too great at all. But it seems to have sorted itself out to a large extent now. The levels have been respected pretty well. It's all quite understandable with the spread reducing here on an increase in volume, which is buying. A test below this bar's close, and then a push higher, which is an accumulation move. And then you've had pretty much a month of absorption adjacent to this range here to the left. And this market looks well placed to issue a challenge to this breakdown line here, where I do expect there'll be supply drawn out. I don't expect it'll be easy. It'll probably take a decent effort, but I expect a challenge of some description to that level next week if trading conditions are favourable. Okay, thanks for your time. We'll see you next week. See ya.